evening, everyone. A very challenging and difficult format. You have to finish every slide in 20 seconds, and all we have is 20 slides to speak about it. So without further delay, let's get started. I'm also going to try and stay with the theme and speak less and hope I can show more. Mies van der Rohe, of course, credited with the aphorism less is more, and like Minnie said before me, very used and abused. So you will see as we go along how I tend to use and abuse the same aphorism again. In response to Mises' less is more, Robert Venturi built Vanna Venturi's house, his own mother's house, and said less is a bore. And thus was born the postmodern movement. And between him, Michael Graves, and a whole bunch of other architects in the US, they completely changed the way architecture was perceived, followed by Philip Johnson. Philip Johnson refused to have any kind of fidelity for a particular expression, so he would shift across. He worked with Mies van der Rohe, he did the glass house, he also did the AT&T postmodern Chippendale building, he built a building after Frank Gehry in his New Canaan estate. So from moving from Mies to Philip Johnson to Rem Koolhaas, who says more is more. He's a realist, more is more and the matter ends there. You know his buildings from CCTV and also the Seattle Public Library. And Iris Apfel is there. She says more is more and less is a bore. So there is a variation of that. BRK Ingels works with Rem Koolhaas, comes out of the office and says, yes is more, which is you subject yourself to the constraints of reality and you search for hedonism in sustainability. You look for pragmatism in utopia. And just to kind of situate our practice in this whole less is more argument, there are two projects I would like to talk about very briefly. We believe that you have a certain idea, one idea or two ideas for the project, and everything that you do in that project is then to reinforce that idea. So you don't clutter the project with many ideas. You do more, but with less, with one idea. This is a small residence that we have done. There is one angle to the whole project, and then that angle kind of permeates across the board on the entire project. Not bad, I'm keeping up with the time. Needs no introduction. The slide is as minimal as it could get. Steve Jobs, I think, completely changed the way that how we perceive technology today and how we use technology today. We wouldn't be, I think, in the kind of zeitgeist that we are in currently without Steve Jobs, because personal computing, music, wearable fitness, everything comes out of design, out of Apple. Less or more, I think most of us tend to see less is more as a kind of opposition, that if you do more, then more is too much. But there is, of course, in various disciplines, the idea that there could be less or more. In fashion, for example, it could be minimal or it could be excessive. You saw Lady Gaga there. In food, less is more is a huge movement, minimalist food. So you have molecular gastronomy, you have El Bulli, you have the fat duck, and people are looking at the physics and chemistry of food, trying to see at what temperature you prepare the food, trying to look at what is the chemical changes that happen when you process food. So you see lasagna or ravioli that's transparent. You see caviar made out of olive oil. It's really incredible. Usain Bolt, of course, takes this very seriously. Less is more. He runs for very less time, makes the maximum amount of money as well. Of course, you watched all his races in the Olympics. Sort of a political twist on this, where one person standing in front of those 4 or 5 tanks at Tiananmen Square during the protests, or this left bottom slide where you have the lady protesting the water cannons during the medical protests in Delhi recently. So one person less by number, but can really make a huge impact. What we are now experiencing, I think what we call the shared economy, is something that really is a less is more economy. It's about not owning, but it's about sharing. So when you look at Ola, Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, all of them are recognizing that there is a excess of capacity in the system. We all have houses that we don't occupy for 24 hours or 7 days a week or throughout the year. We have cars which are sitting idle most of the hours in the day. So how do you use this excess capacity to share? So you have excess capacity, you have the internet, and then you have the app economy. And with the introduction of the driverless car, what it does is it has the potential to take the number of cars required on the street to 20% of what we have. So instead of everybody owning 1 or 2 cars even, with a driverless car and carpooling, the potential is really to go to 15 to 20% of the number of cars that you have. You have more roads, you have more green, and you have more space for development. So there's less me, less mine, less of what you own, and more sharing, so that's less we. If you look at what is the impact on architecture for that, you look at co-working spaces, very small offices just for yourself, more space outside the office where you could meet others. So there's WeWork, which has free beer in the office. There's Hannah House, which has, again, a whole lot of people who go there to meet other people. So co-working and co-living. Again, hostels, which are very compact with bunk beds for the millennials, and then you have more space outside, which is the common spaces and the lounges. So co-living and co-working, and these are impacts of the shared economy, of the less is more economy. Of course, in Pepsi, it's always dil mange more. That's the question I think Shah Rukh was kind of referring to. There is clutter, there is excess plastic, there is stormwater drains and real estate running rampant, which then causes floods. So in a sense, I think in our society, unfortunately, it's the death of less. It is less is no more. That's what I look at it at. And I'd like to sort of end this dialectic of less and more with a quote by Rumi, which is, I think, phenomenally contextual. It says, "Peaceful is the one who is not concerned with having less or more." Thank you.